We're here today at Mound Key Archaeological State Park. Mound Key was built over a several hundred-year period, several thousand years ago by the Calusa Indians. Mound Key is the capital, where the king lived, the Cacique, however you pronounce it. And it would have been a succession, whether it was done by battle or hereditary. It was a succession, just like any other kingship in any other aboriginal world. Of course, the chief guy would have been a man of, stature and had to have been very physically imposing. The Calusa are descended from the original people, of course, as are we all. I don't know why that even says that, but we're all descended from the original people. But the original people in Florida are believed to have started here in 12,000 years ago. In this area, I mean, all up and down the coast. And we're standing on it right now. We're on a mound built by handmade, just like Fakahatchee Island, just like Chokoloskee, just like a bunch of other ones that we know of, Panther Key, etc.
Safety Harbor.
What is it?
Safety Harbor.
Yeah, there you go. Safety Harbor, Philippi Park, all that. So, and that's exciting to me. I mean, it's just all these shells that we see was brought here by those people's hands, and we're walking on those shells. That's what we're on. Of course, the trees wouldn't have been here, but everything else was here. This would have been a place of extreme industry, of coming and going, and we would have been surrounded on all the various islands in the mainland behind us by all sorts of villages, sub-villages. I'm not sure how they would have politically situated or arranged those, but of course, the head guy was here. Everybody else around him, it would have been closer to him based on their importance. And of course, as with any monarchical society, they would have wanted to they would have wanted to be closer to the king. So in early 1700s, the Calusa were wiped out by various diseases. Go ahead and pause that. Just hit the pause button so I get it.
I forget how.
Where it says pause? Right there. In the 15th century, 16th century, the Spanish sent emissaries over here, started a mission on this island near the headman, the Cacique's place where he lived, his palace, if you will. I'm not sure what that looked like. It might have just been a chickee, who knows. But they started their mission there near where he lived. And within 200 years, the Calusa people and almost all of the indigenous aboriginal people of Florida were completely wiped out by diseases for which they had no immunity, natural immunities, which in itself is a whole nother astonishing subject to think about, a people who are so pure in their living that none of the diseases that affected Europeans on a daily basis would affect them at all. So they brought those diseases over, wiped out almost everybody in Florida, in the Caribbean, and that was it. The Seminoles moved in and took over. The Seminoles are basically the Creeks. Their ascendancy started right about the same time as the Calusa / prehistoric aboriginal indigenous peoples descended. So this is a picture of an old Jesuit church structure. Doubt they had anything that fancy here. We've seen something like that up in Mission San Luis, but we didn't see much of that here. One of the things I found interesting about these kiosks is that the photographs of other people who lived here, the settlers who came and lived. These are the Cubans who lived in the fish camps that they created along the coast. Because of the situation of Estero Bay, it would have been a really good place for shellfish. Say that 5 times fast. All right, so I think, I don't have anything to support me other than my thoughts, is that this was essentially a cistern. This is a pond. It's got to be fresh, if not, nasty. I'm sure it's nasty, but it's fresh, and it's enclosed. So they probably would have dug that. They dug canals all over the island. Here we see, on this kiosk, we see a farm, which means there would have been, there are ruins. I see everything that I can see there made out of wood, except possibly the underpinnings. Typical cracker Florida construction. And this would have been up on the mound, on the top of the mound. So it has established a community with single room houses for 17 families, a schoolhouse, cookhouse, concrete cistern. Oh boy, I would like to see that one. And who knows, this place is so right now overgrown, excuse me, with trees and brush and bush and everything else that who knows where any of this stuff is. There's a lot of little paths off to the side here, but we don't know how far they go. This is an interesting map. It shows where the mounds were, the primary mounds. This whole thing is a mound, but the different mounds would have been where the different temples and houses would have been, or structures, living structures, whatever form that would have taken.
Not all areas are accessible today. Maybe some are.
A lot of them aren't, that's for sure. It says 1,000 people lived here. So, and I can believe that easily. Lived at Calusa. Apparently they call this Calusa. Well, that's pretty cool. So, interesting. Just fascinating stuff, man. Just fascinating stuff. All right, we're gonna take a walk up here to the top and look around, and we're gonna head back to our kayaks and ease on down the road, as they say. Fascinating place. Of the island, the entirety of the island, there's a fairly small sliver that is owned privately by an estate. The state owns the rest of it, and the Corishans at one point, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, donated their interest to the state for a park, and the state offered to buy out these other people's part, but apparently, and I don't only know from what I read, but apparently they wanted like in the tens of millions, and the state only wanted to give them $500,000, which is understandable. You can't build out here. All you can do is own. So, I mean, why would you want to buy it? But I guess if I owned it privately, I'd probably hold on to it too. I don't know. At one point there's rumored to be goats out here. I don't know how true that is, but I've seen pictures of them. There's a fence up here to fence off this private property portion. And there's a little map. There's actually got a for sale sign out here on the path. If that's not balls, I don't know what is. They have a private property, no trespassing sign, and right next to it they have a for sale. So they own 9.5 acres. Oh man. Well, maybe when those people pass, their estate will be more reasonable. Who knows? It would be pretty cool to see a bunch of goats. Apparently at one point they were roaming free, but I guess since then these fences have been put in. That's kind of spiteful too. The only people that would want to explore on this island would be archaeologists, historians. So I guess the supposition that this whole island would have been one great big huge mound is essentially incorrect. It would have been a series of mounds. It would have been, a big underlying mound, the substructure, but the different points of it where some of the temples or the higher ups lived or whatever would have been individual mounds taller than the others. We've gone up and down a few of those. Hon, you all right? Since we've been here. And we're going up now to the tallest point on the island. So this might have been where the temple was. It's a really cool partial view of the bay here. Of course, when this was back in the day originally, or even I guess when those photographs were taken, this would have been barren. And all these trees are scrub. Whatever trees that would have been here would have been used for building material or fuel. And there, that gives you can see a little sliver of water on the other side. So this is the high point. I guess the temple would have been here. This must have been where they had their farmhouse also, but I'm not sure of that. Either way, we're gonna shut her down and head on back to the other side. Paddle back over.